Good evening and thank you for joining us on this Monday. You're watching the 9 at Night. I'm Stephania Jimenez, and tonight we start with a not guilty verdict. A jury didn't convict a man accused of killing a teenager in 2020. Mario Duarte and his cousin, who has yet to go to trial, were accused of killing 16-year-old Sebastian Diaz. Now, Diaz's family says that they are distraught and they're saddened by the not guilty verdict. All along, Duarte's attorneys argued self-defense. Now, the prosecution said that Diaz was at a Northside apartment complex to sell Duarte and his cousin drugs. Surveillance video showed them walking up to the SUV that Diaz was driving and then running off less than a minute later while the SUV reverses. 3 passengers are seen running from the vehicle as Diaz gets out, collapses. One person is seen running back and appears to reach in. Although the defense say that no gun was recovered, they say that Duarte, their client, saw one.
He saw an individual in the vehicle with a gun. When they made a sudden movement, he feared for his life. He and his family member shot in return, and unfortunately, the young man did die.
Now, Diaz's family sent us a statement that says in part, quote, "Today's verdict means there is no accountability for the person who murdered Sabi, even though he confessed to being there and pulling the trigger. Our family remains heartbroken that justice was put in the hands of 12 random jurors and justice was not served with the verdict by someone responsible for his death," end quote. However, Duarte still faces a separate charge of aggravated robbery in a different incident, and his cousin, Julian Vera, still faces a murder charge. The DA's office declined to comment, citing pending cases. Tonight, an Atascosa County Sheriff's deputy is behind bars. Officers arrested 37-year-old Rodney Wrigley over the weekend. The Wilson County Sheriff's Office says that Wrigley had gotten into an altercation with his family on Friday, and now he's charged with assault causing bodily injury, which is a felony. The Sheriff's Office fired Wrigley. He had only been with the office for less than 9 months. We've learned more about the man who was killed near the last place you'd expect. 24-year-old Lyndon Seymour was killed outside of a church. Investigators say he had just pulled up to the church in the 1300 block of W.W. White on the east side when someone standing in the parking lot started shooting. Seymour was hit 3 times in the chest. 3 other adults and 2 children were in the car with him, but none of them were hurt. Investigators say the shooter got into the passenger side of a vehicle and drove off. Police say that this was a targeted attack. As San Antonio police look for the killer there, they're also trying to find out who shot a man outside of his home. This happened around 10:15 last night on the 800 block of Iowa Street. That's near Pittman Sullivan Park. Police say that the man was sitting on his front porch when someone drove by in a white car and fired shots. The man was hit in his leg, taken to BAMC. He is expected to be okay. Now, here's another unsolved case that investigators need your help with. That's 22-year-old Troy Lee. He was killed back on June 28th of last year. He was found with multiple stab wounds at the Hilltop Oaks apartments in the 6100 block of Ingram Road. Now, San Antonio police and Crime Stoppers are offering up to $10,000 for any information that leads to an arrest in that case. You can call the number that you see on your screen. It's kind of small, so I'll tell it to you. It's 210-224-STOP. And just a reminder that any tips that you give remain anonymous. Switching gears now. Have you voted? Election day is tomorrow, and VIA is hoping to make it easier for you to get to the polls because it's offering free bus rides. All you got to do is show your voter registration card to the bus driver. It's part of VIA's Ride to Vote program. VIA is hoping that it reaches people who may not have reliable transportation. Now, speaking of traveling, 50 miles a day, that is how far that man is planning to cover on foot to raise awareness for a program that he says saved his life. Kenneth Anderlich has battled alcoholism and addiction since he was 14 years old. He was caught in a cycle of recovery, prison time, homelessness, never finding a way to transition into sobriety. But all of that changed when he found the Pay It Forward program, which partners with Haven for Hope. It helps those who have experienced homelessness transition from treatment to sober living.
I believe wholeheartedly that their chances of staying sober are greater when you're put in a position where you're with people who are still on the same struggle bus of sobriety, early sobriety.
Now, Kenneth is going to start this event the day after Thanksgiving. His trip extends from El Paso to Logansport, Louisiana. Good luck to him. Now put this under your Now You Know file. San Antonio has its own Veterans Parade, and it returns this Saturday after a 2-year hiatus. And you know why it wasn't really taking place? Because of the pandemic. So now organizers that it's back, they're trying to get the word out. This year marks its 21st. Organizers say that people are grateful for veteran service, but this is the day to actually go out and show it.
It's vital because there's only 1% of the population that ever puts on the uniform of this country. And it's because of the veterans that we have our freedoms and we can enjoy a peaceful life.
So the parade is a Saturday, November 12th, and it starts at noon from 4th Street and Alamo Street, and it ends at San Saba Street. Now, after that, you can continue on to Hemisphere. From noon to 10, there's a huge Veterans Fair with music, food, vendors, and a lot more. It's free and open to anyone. So now that you know about activities for this weekend, you're going to need the forecast. Here's meteorologist Adam Caskey.
Another round of morning fog, drizzle, just some dampness for the first half of the day tomorrow. That mostly should last through about the noon hour. Into the afternoon, some sunshine, but still the off chance of a stray shower or two, about a 20% chance. We'll be in the 60s in the morning, mid-80s in the afternoon. It's more of the same through Thursday. Friday, a cold front hits. It's going to have a big impact on our temperatures. We're talking afternoon highs down in the 50s by Saturday. So get ready for that big temperature drop. And of course, that's going to sweep away all the mugginess as well. Some low clouds on Saturday and windy as well, with a little bit of light rain possibly here and there.
So this is cool, whether you're looking for information on the Texas Revolution or you want to take a deep dive into your Tejano roots. A new exhibition now in town is making that possible. The Bexar County Clerks Preservation Project was unveiled today. It's basically a database with the history of Bexar County right at your fingertips. Those documents have been preserved but also digitized. Now, Lucy Adame Clark says that she hopes giving them new life is going to help history reach the younger generations.
I don't want to repeat history, and they're repeating history because they don't even know it exists. They're not being taught in school any longer. So why not, as county clerks across the state of Texas, make sure we do our due diligence of preserving our history.
The project also includes the Spanish archives and special collections, and that consists of more than 250,000 pages of handwritten manuscripts dating all the way back to 1821. By the way, the gallery is at the Bexar County Archives building on East Nueva Street, so it's there for you to check out. Now, before we go, a lot of children wear school uniforms, but a new study finds that the fabrics may be exposing kids to toxic chemicals. 12 on your side's Marilyn Moritz explains how to limit exposure to those forever chemicals.
Millions of children wear them, school uniforms. Now, a study in the journal Environmental Science and Technology found school uniforms had higher levels of potentially dangerous chemicals called PFAS than other kids' clothing tested.
PFAS are known as forever chemicals since they essentially never break down naturally. And they're often added to products to make them waterproof, stain-resistant, or non-stick.
PFAS have been linked to health issues, including increased risk of certain cancers, liver damage, and neurodevelopmental problems. Children's exposure is of particular concern. In this study, 30 stain-resistant school uniforms were tested. The chemicals were found in all of them.
Kids wear these clothes against their skin for hours every day, and these chemicals can stay in the body for months or even years. So it's really important to limit exposure where possible.
So how do you limit a child's exposure?
If you have the option, say your school requires a blue polo but not one from a specific store, try to buy one that's not labeled stain resistant, since stain resistant coatings often contain PFAS.
A lot of non-stick cookware also has these chemicals, so you could switch to stainless steel cookware. Also, when getting takeout, check to see if the restaurant has eliminated PFAS from their wrappers and boxes. And if your drinking water has PFAS, use a water filter certified to remove them. Marilyn Moritz, KSAT 12 News.
Really good advice there. Well, we are out of time right now. We hope that you'll join us tomorrow for election night. Our live stream coverage starts at 7 o'clock. So we just want to let you know there's not going to be a 9 at night formally. We're just going to have election coverage for you. And then the 9 at night returns Wednesday at 9. Have a lovely night and remember to vote. We'll see you tomorrow.